Sometimes an atom or a molecule can lose or gain electron or electrons. When they lose or gain electron, they become ions. Okay? When an atom or a molecule is losing an electron, it becomes the type of ion we call cation. While when it's gaining an electron, it becomes the type of ion called anion. Anyways, before we proceed with cation and anion, let's take down the definition of an ion. On the board, an ion is defined as an atom or a group of atoms with a positive or negative charge. Remember I said earlier that these atoms or group of atoms, they are either losing electron or gaining electrons. Okay? When they are losing electron, they become positively charged. So the charge that that particular atom is going to bear is what? Positive charge. Okay? While when they are gaining electron, that atom becomes what? Negatively charged. Okay? That leads us to the two types of ions that we have. Number one is a cation, and number two is an anion. On the board, we have types of ions, and we have two major types of ions, and they are what? Cations and anions. A cation is a type of ion that loses an electron to become positively charged. So in other words, cations are what? Positive ions. And being a positive ion means that they bear a positive what? Charge. Okay. On the other hand, anions are what? Ions that are what? Negatively charged. We can as well call them what? Negative ions. So anions are negative ions. We use the minus sign to represent the charge on negative ions. Now let's look at some examples of these ions, and let's also get to know the atoms of which elements can lose electron and the atoms of which elements can accept electron. On the board, we have examples of ions. On one side are the cations, while on the other side of the board are the anions. For the cations, we have sodium ion. When you look at the charge of sodium ion, the charge is just plus. And this plus here shows that sodium has just one charge, okay? Now coming to magnesium, magnesium has two charges. In the case of sodium, sodium lost one electron, while in the case of magnesium, magnesium lost two electrons. Aluminium, having three positive charges, shows that aluminium lost three what? Electrons. While this, when you look at this, you will see that this is more than one atom of an element. We have an atom of nitrogen and atom of hydrogen coming together to make this what? Ion. Remember that when we define an ion, we say that an ion is an atom or a group of atoms that are what? Charged, that are bearing charges. Now, coming to this, we can see that these are what? Atoms. These are single atoms of elements. And coming to this, NH4 plus, this is what? A group of atoms, because the atoms are coming from what? Two elements. Okay? I will give you the name we call this group of atoms shortly. Let's look at the anions. Coming to the anions, we have chlorine. Chlorine having just a single what? Negative sign, showing that chlorine is accepting what? One electron. And this is a sulfide ion. This shows that the sulfide ion accepted what? Two electrons to become what? Negatively charged. It's bearing a charge of what? -2. Nitrogen. Here it shows that nitrogen accepted 3 electrons. Okay? So nitrogen accepted 3 electrons to become what? Negatively charged. And that is why it's bearing what? 3 negative charges. Coming to this, you can see that this consists of what? More than one type of an atom. So this is called a carbonate ion. We call this a carbonate ion, or the IUPAC name is trioxocarbonate 4 ion. So we either call this the carbonate ion or what? The trioxocarbonate 4 ion. Okay. Now, this ion, which is also a group of what? Atoms bearing a charge, has a total number of what? 2 charges, 2 negative charges. So a carbonate ion is negatively charged. So when we look at this carbonate ion and the ammonium ion, we call them radicals. So radicals are simply a group of what? Atoms which are charged. Or you say radicals are what? A group of charged atoms. I believe with this, you now have an in-depth knowledge of what an ion is. Thank you for being part of this class, and I encourage you to stay with me as we journey through this series of what? Classes on chemistry.